I'm Peter Silverman. This program is Code 1078. Police officer needs assistance. Tonight, the Global Television Network is asking your cooperation to assist the Ontario Provincial Police in solving the case of Mrs. Frances Harris, who mysteriously disappeared from this house on April the 21st, 1972. 46 years of age when she vanished, Mrs. Frances Muriel Sarah Ann Harris of Apsley, Ontario, would be 51 if she is alive today. There is nothing to indicate whether she is alive or dead. On Friday, April the 21st, 1972, Mrs. Frances Harris was waiting in the family car outside this clinic in Peterborough. It was her custom to accompany her husband to the clinic, where he was taking physiotherapy for a back ailment. The appointment for that morning was 9:30 a.m. The treatment concluded, her husband rejoined her. It was to be the couple's last ride together. It was a long drive north from Peterborough along Highway 28, a drive later to be checked in every detail by the police. The route of the couple led through Lakefield, Ontario, and here a stop was made. While Stanley Harris went to the bank to cash his paycheck, he was unaware of his wife's activities. She went to the post office to mail a birthday card to her daughter, Faye Martin. Resuming their journey, and while northbound on Highway 28, they were seen by Mr. Jack Tucker of Apsley. Mr. Tucker, did you know Frances and Stanley Harris?
Yes, I did.
Did you know them fairly well?
Known them all my life.
Did you get a clear view of Mrs. Harris that day?
Oh, quite clear. You're passing or meeting them like that on the highway.
And you have no doubt that that was Mrs. Harris?
No doubt at all.
What time was that?
About 10:30 in the morning.
As far as the police have been able to determine, Mr. Tucker was the last person, other than her husband, to see Mrs. Harris. In a later statement to the police, Stanley Harris stated that he and his wife returned at approximately 11:30 a.m. to their home at Apsley. The couple, who had been together since 1949, had lived in this house for the previous 8 years. Changing his clothes, Mr. Harris performed some chores, which included feeding a number of livestock. He then shared a light lunch with his wife, soup and a sandwich, and then left for work. When he left, Mrs. Harris was alone in the house. Mr. Harris arrived shortly before 1 p.m. at his place of work, the Department of Highways yard at Apsley. During that afternoon, he was given routine work assignments in the Jack Lake and Bancroft areas. To the best of our knowledge, the next person to enter the house was Rodney Harris. He was 13 at the time. Rodney, when was the last time you saw your mother?
One morning about 20 to 9, I guess it was, before I caught the bus to school.
And when did you get home that day?
About 20 to 4, I guess it was, right after school. I came right home.
Was your mother home?
No, she wasn't. The door was locked, and so I just had to go get the key and let myself in.
Did you find it unusual that the door was locked?
Well, not really. She used to go and visit the neighbors just up the road from us quite often, so I just, found it that she had went up there.
So you weren't worried?
No, not a bit.
And then what happened? Did your dad get home?
He come home right around 5 o'clock, maybe a bit after, so then I just asked him where Mom was, and he said he didn't know, so he cooked us a supper, and then we just sat around watching TV for a while.
Did you make any attempt to find out where your mother was?
No, I wasn't really too awful worried until later when I went to bed, and I never asked Dad any questions. I don't know why, but I just went off upstairs to bed, and that's all.
As other members of the family took alarm, a brother-in-law of the missing woman, Mr. Guy White, paid a visit to the Apsley detachment of the Ontario Provincial Police. This was the first information that the police received of what had taken place.
As a result of this information, I instituted a missing persons message on our telex system for distribution to all OPP detachments and municipal police forces in Ontario. Provided a detailed description of the missing person and also filed a missing persons report at our office. We checked with various government agencies, hoping that she changed her address on her driver's license, and also with Manpower and Immigration in the hopes that she'd applied for a job in a different location. All inquiries met with negative results.
More in a moment as the police enter the case of the disappearance of Mrs. Frances Harris. the 21st, 1972, Mrs. Frances Harris of Apsley, Ontario, disappeared from her home between 1 and 3:40 p.m. Though close to a large family, she hasn't contacted any of them since her disappearance. On Monday, April the 24th, Constable Andrew of the Apsley Detachment summoned the husband of the missing woman for an explanation.
He came to our detachment, and he assured me that when he arrived home from work on Friday the 21st of April in the afternoon, he found his wife missing. He noticed several empty coat hangers in her closet, and most of her clothing seemed to be missing. He checked the driveway and observed fresh car tracks in the driveway and assumed that she'd left willingly and would return sometime later.
What was the official police view of the information you received from Mr. Harris?
Due to the apparent lack of concern on the behalf of Mr. Harris, coupled with the fact that some of her clothing seemed to be missing, there were no suspicions attached to the event.
During the ensuing months, the Ontario Provincial Police carried out an in-depth investigation regarding the disappearance of Mrs. Frances Harris. Why was that, Sergeant McDougall?
It was officially a missing person case, but we had to consider the possibility of homicide. Many members of the family were not satisfied that Mrs. Harris would totally disappear in this fashion.
Rodney, you said that you weren't surprised when your mother didn't show up that evening. Why was that?
I knew Mom and Dad hadn't been getting along for about a month or a little more and been arguing quite a bit, so I figured it was soon to happen.
What was the cause of all the arguments?
Oh, just anything. Something wasn't right here or there, and something somebody wouldn't do, and all that. It just kept going steady.
Did your mother ever threaten to leave?
Well, not really, no. She said that she was always going to stay at home, and if anybody was to leave, I guess it'd have to be Dad, and he wasn't going to let anybody in the house. I don't know, let her take over the stuff.
So there was never any indication that she planned on leaving or pulling out?
Not really, no, but I had always figured for a while that it was going to happen sooner or later, so I don't know. Never really thought too much of it when, the time did come for her to leave.
You know, Rodney, though you don't sound surprised that your mother did leave, weren't you surprised when she didn't contact any of her family?
I was for quite a while. I guess maybe I still am. I don't know really for sure, but I don't know. Maybe she might get a hold of us and maybe not. I have my doubts right now since it's been so long.
Another member of the family who was surprised was a daughter-in-law of Frances Harris, Mrs. Shirley Fontaine of Peterborough. Shirley, did Frances ever give you any indication that she was going to leave?
No, none whatsoever. Just the opposite. She wanted to stay, or she said she wanted to stay.
So you were rather surprised when she did leave?
Mm-hmm.
Have you any idea why she might have? Anything that you can remember, recall her saying?
No, I think it was just a snap decision.
At the spur of the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you say that?
Just because of the circumstances. She had started spring cleaning that week, rearranging the house. The way the clothes appeared to have been taken, just on hangers, no suitcases. Just looked like she had no plan of going.
Would there be any indication that she might have, let's say, been smarter than anybody thought of, and had, in fact, arranged to leave under those circumstances?
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't think so.
When she left, you went to the house, I believe.
Yeah, the next day.
What did you find?
I wasn't looking for anything at the time. We didn't, the Sunday when we started to do some house cleaning was when we became aware of the fact that there were suitcases. Some of her cosmetics she kept in the refrigerator were still there. But we weren't really looking for anything at the time. It didn't really dawn on us what was happening.
Do you think she left with another man?
I think that's possible.
When you say it's possible, that leads to a suggestion that there might have been another man.
No, I don't necessarily mean that, but she did work at the lake, and she knew a lot of people. There were people in there she called Mom and Dad, older people she thought of as friends. She had a lot of acquaintances from in there. It could have been a man, not necessarily.
What was Stan's reaction?
He became very tense after a while, which was understandable due to the questioning and the things that became apparent, you know, finger pointing.
What do you think
About
her leaving?
I think she left under her own steam. I think it was her own decision, whatever she's done.
For Stan Harris, the sudden and unexpected desertion of his wife was a painful experience. Under the circumstances, he chose not to talk to Code 1078. However, June Johnson, a former sister-in-law of Frances, did consent to an interview on behalf of herself and Stan. She is now Mrs. Stanley Harris. This has been 5 years, and it's been a very hard 5 years on you and Stanley. What's the worst part about it?
Oh, I guess everybody not believing us, that's the worst thing.
Not believing what?
Well, we were accused of some pretty terrible things, and it's not very nice to have people accuse you of things like that.
Do you think that atmosphere still exists in the town?
With some people, yes.
Do you think that there are people that are singling you out, you being you and Stan?
Oh, I don't know if they're singling us out, or... I don't really know.
Would you like to have her found?
Yes, definitely.
Why?
Well, to prove to people that she left of her own free will. She wasn't forced to leave, or nothing happened to her.
During this whole time, it would seem that the disappearance of one woman has split a community and split families. You yourself are cut off from part of your family. Is that not right?
Not my own family, no. My ex-husband's family, yes. But not my family. There's never been any problem there.
But there has with some of Stan's family, I gather.
No, well, there was a few hard feelings with his own children for a little while, but that's all cleared up. But with Frances' family, there's definitely hard feelings.
Did you know Frances before?
Yes.
Do you think she's the type of person that would have just left?
Yes, I think she would have.
What makes you think that, from what you know of her?
No, from something she told me once that I never told anybody until after she left.
Can you tell us what that was?
Well, there was one time we were talking on the phone, which we used to do quite a lot at one time, and she said something about she would like to just pack up and leave, that she had the opportunity. And I thought she was just angry at somebody for something, and a lot of people get angry and say things. But that's...
Do you know why she made that comment to you at the time?
Oh, I don't know, just two women gabbing, I guess. Like, I thought we were pretty close at one time. I used to tell her my troubles, and she'd sometimes tell me hers.
June, did it surprise you that Frances did leave? I mean, was it something that you said, oh my God, or how could she do this?
I never really could understand anyone leaving their children, but it surprised me that she didn't tell somebody, but didn't surprise me really that she left.
Despite the emerging personal information pointing to logical reasons for the disappearance of Frances Harris, police, like members of the family, remained dissatisfied. Exhaustive investigation of all possible leads and rumors were coupled with a mounting file on the life of the missing woman herself. Today, the case still remains open, and the Ontario Provincial Police have it under review. Further details right after this. On June the 28th, 1977, here at Ontario Provincial Police Headquarters in Toronto, the missing person case entered a new phase. Assigned to the case was Inspector T. Hill of the Criminal Investigation Branch with the task of reviewing the case and exploring any further leads that may have developed.
The case was reopened mainly because of information which we had recently received from Western Canada, and also because of a reported sighting from Western Canada by a man presently living in Peterborough, Ontario. This was coupled with a dissatisfaction on the part of some members of the Harris family who were not completely satisfied over the past few years of the circumstances surrounding Mrs. Harris's disappearance.
At the time of the disappearance, you were the first person to report it to the police.
Yeah.
But on the day in question, you saw something that has never been explained. What was that?
Well, my husband and I was on our way to Midland. We were driving by around 1:45, and there was two cars in the lane, and one was Stan Harris's, and the other one I thought was my nephew, Herb Fontaine.
Do you remember what the cars looked like?
Yes. Stan's car was a dark car with a orangey-colored hood, and the grill was out of it at the time. And my nephew's was a light blue car.
Police found another witness to support Mrs. White, employed by the Department of Highways. Clarence Foster of Apsley found occasion to pass the Harris home several times on the day in question.
Well, I was doing a traffic survey that day, and I was back several times, and in that day I was by the Harris house, and I saw a blue car in the yard sometime in that day.
Did you recognize the car at all?
No, I did not.
Did you see Mrs. Frances Harris at all?
No, I was by the house several times that day, but I never saw Frances.
The police have established, beyond any doubt, that Stanley Harris's car was parked in the Department of Highways yard. So whose car do you think you saw?
Well, I'm sure it was his. I mean, you can't mistake that car.
At the time when you were driving by, your sister was supposed to be at home alone in the house. How do you account for the other car?
I can't understand why, who the other car would be and why.
The blue car has caused us a great deal of concern. It was first sighted approximately 9:30 a.m. that morning. It was again sighted at approximately 2:30 p.m. that afternoon by two different people. So we are satisfied that a blue car was in fact at the Harris house that day. We have been unable to resolve the presence of the blue car, however. It does leave open a number of questions. Number one, it could have been the vehicle of transportation for Mrs. Harris to voluntarily depart from the town of Apsley that day. It could have supplied the mode of transportation for a person or persons unknown who may have forced Mrs. Harris to involuntarily leave the house that day. Or, of course, it could be completely irrelevant to the disappearance of Mrs. Harris at all.
There was also the question of Mr. Stanley Harris's car being present in the driveway during that time. Have you ever worked that out?
In 1972, that particular issue was looked into very carefully by Inspector McKendry. The police investigation at that time was satisfied that the Harris car had not left the Department of Highways yard. We simply are in no position at this time to be able to comment further on that particular aspect.
Do you think that she might have left with somebody?
I think that the whole thing must have been made up ahead of time. And that if you want it that way, that I would say that she had it all planned and that she just left and that was it.
If that was true, why do you think she came over to speak to you that night?
Well, I don't know, unless to make it harder for Stan when she did leave.
What does your husband think of all this?
I don't really know what he thinks about her. He never talks about her. Like he wishes the same as I do, I know, that someone could find her and set everybody's minds at rest.
That all this would be over.
Yeah.
It seems as if there's a lot of people that would really like to have some sort of an answer.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Do you think you'll ever get that answer?
I don't think that Frances will ever give us an answer voluntarily because I don't think she wants to be found. If she did, she'd have let somebody know where she was or something.
I don't think I miss her now as much as I used to because I'm growing up and I'm just trying to keep right out of my mind and, you know, not let it worry me too much.
You'd like her to come back, though?
Yeah, sure. I guess so. I guess anybody would that's in my position.
Do you think she's alive?
Yes.
Do you think anybody knows where she is?
No. I thought at one time that her parents may know. But I don't think they do.
You miss her a lot.
Yes, I do.
Do you think they'll ever find her?
Well, I hope so. One way or the other. At least the person will be able to rest better.
Global Television asks your help in locating any of the most wanted criminals. Do you know this man? Unlawfully at large. Escapee Christopher Walter Schulter, born June 30th, 1957, height 5 foot 8 inches, weight 151 pounds. He has brown hair and eyes and burn scars on his hands. If you have any information about this man or the whereabouts of Mrs. Frances Harris, here is a number to call. Call collect area code 416-965-8105 or write to Criminal Investigations Branch, Ontario Provincial Police, 90 Harbour Street, Toronto, Ontario. This has been Code 1078. I'm Peter Silverman. Good night.
Part of Columbo's cruise is cut short by the murder of the ship's singer, as Robert Vaughn, Patrick McNee, and Dean Stockwell guest star this week. Global's got Columbo, Sunday at 7, right after Global Newsweek.